Welcome to Stephy's Inspiration. Today, our focus is on obedience, evidence, the fear of the Lord. Genesis 22 2 to 3 says, Then God said, Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain. I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him two of his servants and his son Isaac. Sometimes God tells us to do things that are against our wishes. Sometimes He asks us to do things that are vexing or required us to suffer. Regardless of what God asked, we must be prepared to do what He says, because obedience to His commands evidences the fear of God in our lives. Perfect obedience means following everything we have been commanded with question and acting to execute the command with immediacy. Abram was promised by God that he would conceive a son with his wife Sarah. Abram was advanced in age, but he waited for this promise for many years, and he was eventually granted his son at the age of 100. Without question, Abram loved his son dearly. God would know this better than anyone. But yet, the same God who gave Abraham his son would later ask Abraham to sacrifice the only son as a burnt offering. After waiting years for the promise, God was now demanding Abraham to sacrifice that promise. This must have been a bitter command for Abraham, but we were told that he was prepared early in the morning to do exactly that. There are those of us who have been commanded by God to do something years ago and took our own sweet time to accomplish it. Our sluggishness in responding to God's evidence, our lack of reverence for God. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. How many of us would be able to assume the posture of Abraham if we were asked to sacrifice something we loved? Abraham was promised by God that his seed would be numerous. Genesis 3:16. Therefore, this instruction to sacrifice his only son must have been confusing. Nevertheless, Abraham feared God so much that he did not hesitate to fulfill God's request, despite not fully understanding why God wanted this to be done, or even the outcome of what would happen if he did this. In the end, God interrupted Abraham's attempt to sacrifice his son and rewarded Abraham for his obedience. By myself have I sworn, said the Lord, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, in blessing, I will bless thee, and in multiplying, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, And in the seed shall all nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Genesis 22:16-18. The word of the Lord is wonderful, and obedience is pleasing in his sight. Abraham is now known to the world as a man who utterly gave up his will to obey the Lord. And we who are in Christ proudly identify ourselves as the seed of Abraham. Let us don't miss the lesson of the tremendous sacrifice he made and his heart of reverential fear toward God. So, this is my few inspiration words to you. My question for you today is, what do you understand about the relationship between the fear of God and obedience? Have a blessed day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiration.